The original idea for what Wally Dogan would look like changed significantly from the original sketch of a 1970s tennis player to the character seen in the film. The decision to simplify Wally's character was made because Wally needed to be easily repairable during production, and the original version was quite complicated. Both characters in the film have an internal armature that supports the puppet and allows it to be posable. The knight is constructed from a simple wire armature with a ball of foil as a base for the head to reduce the weight. In the feet are two rare earth magnets that allow the puppet to be tied down to the set and lower the risk of the puppet falling over. The armature was then covered with plasticine, which was sculpted into the shape of the knight. Wally Dogan was made in a similar manner, except with a more sophisticated ball and socket armature that allows for more precise and realistic movement, increasing the quality of the animation. The title sequence in the film was inspired by the titles of Spielberg's 2002 film Catch Me If You Can. The title sequence was made by firstly drawing out the various elements I needed in Photoshop. To animate the stickman walking in the sequence, I drew out the various stages of a walk cycle that, when played back quickly, look like a walking person. These images were then imported into Premiere Pro, where scale, rotation, and position of different objects was keyframed to animate the sequence. In an attempt to save myself time during pre-production, I tried to 3D print some of the props required in the film. Unfortunately, the 3D printer at school couldn't print at a high enough resolution to make the props to a high enough quality. Set building commenced with the construction of the sandstone cliff set. The set was made by mixing up a thick mixture of plaster and water. This was then roughly spread across a large piece of MDF and left as set. Once dry, the set was painted a sandstone colour and covered with fine sand to add texture and realism. The kitchen set was created next. The bench top in the kitchen was made out of balsa wood and painted white on top and a stone colour on the front. A small rectangular section was cut from the bench and a cutlery drawer was created out of additional balsa wood. Animation was completed in the holidays between Term 1 and Term 2, 2017. The first scene to be shot was the battle scene at the end of the film. To capture frames, my camera was connected via USB cable to my laptop, which was running a program called DragonFrame. Using DragonFrame, I can remotely control the camera and review footage. This program was extremely useful for capturing fluid stop-motion animation. The torch in the cave scene of the film was made by hooking up an orange LED in a circuit with two small batteries. The batteries were then wrapped in tape, which was painted brown to look like a flaming wooden torch. Once production was complete, post-production began. Adobe Premiere Pro was used to combine visuals and audio together, as well as for color correction. More complicated effects were done using Adobe After Effects. For example, After Effects was used to track the motion of the torch as Wally walked through the cave. A flame was then superimposed on top of the torch to conceal the LED light. Additionally, I used expressions to vary the opacity of the scene to simulate the effect of a flickering flame in the cave. The animated skydiving sequence in the film was created in a similar manner to the opening titles. Assets were first designed in Photoshop and then imported into After Effects and animated. The rotoscoping, eraser, and clone stamp tools in After Effects were used to remove wires in the animation that were supporting falling or flying objects. Majority of the sound effects in the film were created by me. These were recorded using a Zoom H5 and a Rode NTG3. Sound effects were created by using a range of everyday items to create sounds such as the spider being squashed and the sound of the plane engine. Some audio files were imported into Adobe Audition and slightly edited to make them fit into the film better. All the music in the film comes from a program called Filmstro Pro, where the momentum, depth, and power of pre-existing tracks can be altered to perfectly fit into a film.
Once my film was completed, I began designing and creating my website. The idea for my website was for it to be a place where users can explore each scene from the film and find out behind the scenes information on how it was made. The homepage was made by firstly drawing out a replica of WALL-E's treasure map in Adobe Illustrator, and then adding images from each scene to the map that allow the user to navigate to each page of the site. After this, I used Adobe Photoshop to make the light up buttons on each page. This was done by using the quick selection tool to select the object being turned into a button. The mask created was then refined and smoothed before having an 8-pixel white stroke applied to the outside of the object to complete the button. Once the buttons were done, I began assembling the site. The tooltip menu widget was used to create the pop-up information boxes in the site. By placing the buttons created in Photoshop into the trigger area of the tooltip, I was able to achieve the rollover effect I was aiming to create.